Johan Lange is getting to work on bringing in some serious young talent this January. Meanwhile, our new winger, Yang Min-huk, is in London, and our latest Academy first team graduate has spoken of his delight at making his debut. All this and more on today's episode of the Spurred On Podcast. Guys, thanks so much for watching and listening. If you're on YouTube, please do give this a video like. Press subscribe if you're not a subscriber to my channel yet for daily Tottenham Hotspur content, and I'll be doing regular transfer videos as we get to the transfer window this January as well. Also, you can become a member, only £1 a month. All the details of how are in the description box below. But let's get into it. Tottenham are reportedly keeping tabs on Belgian left-back Maxime de Cipher, who plays for Club Bruges. He's 23 years old, and he's also drawing interest from other Premier League sides, including Arsenal, Manchester City, and Nottingham Forest. Now, this is a player who is versatile, and as we know, as I spoke about in previous videos, Ange Postecoglou and Johan Lange and Scott Munn currently looking for players who can play across the back line, potentially centre-half and left-back, to give us more cover for Destiny Udogie. And de Cipher's form over the last couple of seasons has been incredibly impressive. Last season, from a defensive position, he scored 5 goals and had 15 assists across 55 appearances. And his performance this season has been decent as well. 1 goal and 4 assists. So an overall career tally of 27 goals, 42 assists across all competitions and all levels. And that is just at the age of 23. Tottenham love working across the Belgian market at the moment. Of course, we have Vuskovic and Alfie Devine on loan at Westerlo. We're doing really well over there. And you know, as much as it might upset a lot of people, the reality is you can get a lot more bang for your buck over in Belgium. And that is why Tottenham are looking over there. And also, of course, Spurs have had lots of success with Belgian players, if you're thinking about particularly defenders, Toby Alderweireld and Sir Jan Vertonghen. What a partnership they were. Maybe we didn't even realise how lucky we were to have them at the time. Really had them in their peak. I think actually in hindsight, Vertonghen left too early because he got a concussion, didn't he? And the Spurs medical team didn't diagnose it. And he was playing with a concussion for a good few weeks and then didn't play for the rest of that season. After that, he left. And he went on to still have a really good career after he left Spurs. So maybe some more Belgian players wouldn't be a bad thing. In terms of other transfer possibilities, Spurs face competition from a Premier League rival for their top centre-back target as well. Abdulkadir Kuzanov, I've spoken about him before. The centre-half's impressive displays have also caught the attention of Newcastle, but also Paris Saint-Germain in France. He plays for Lens, very exciting young player, and apparently one of the players at the top of Tottenham's list going into this January. Guys, let me know in the comments, who do you want to see Spurs bid for this January? Which positions do you think are the absolute priority? And of course, a lot of talk after yesterday's interview that Marcus Rashford did at Manchester United. A lot of people on social media saying, would you take Marcus Rashford at Spurs? Now, it's a question worth asking, of course it is, but he is on about £350,000 a week at Man United. So if we were even going to think about bidding for him, we would have to try and negotiate some kind of Emmanuel Adebayor-esque deal with Man United where they pay about half of his wages. My fear, I don't know if it's a fear, but my instinct is that he may end up doing a Danny Welbeck and going to Arsenal. A lot of talk at Woolwich at the moment about how disappointed all the fans are, and a lot of the pundits are as well, with Gabriel Martinelli not fulfilling his potential, and how Arsenal are pretty lopsided in terms of everything going through Ødegaard and Saka on the right. So I think before talking about whether Spurs could make a bid for Rashford, he and his agents will be sounding out other clubs such as Arsenal, maybe Paris Saint-Germain, maybe even thoughts of a move to Saudi Arabia. But it's definitely one of those moves that I would look to make if I was playing Football Manager. So who knows, maybe Daniel Levy can do us, some kind of surprise. I think if Rashford came to play under Big Ange Postecoglou and he had a chat with Big Ange Postecoglou and Ange said to him, you will be like one of our proper main men. I'm going to put the belief back into you and you will be our replacement long-term for Sonny on the left-hand side, cutting in and scoring on the right, getting in behind as you love to do. But you'd have to be willing to put in a pressing shift. And if Rashford was up for that, for being the main man, then sure. But I just don't think in terms of wages it's a possibility. And also, a lot of clips doing the rounds about Rashford's lack of motivation to do the defensive side of the game over recent years. And I see that. I would say a lot of the Man United players have been like that under Ten Hag and previous managers. So maybe it's about the kind of motivation they're getting from the managers. But yeah, it's not a great look, admittedly. I'm sure you guys saw about 48 hours ago that Yang Min-huk has flown to London. Some really kind of wholesome footage of him at what I assume was Seoul Airport, where he did a little interview, spoke his first words in English, and just looking very emotional both in Seoul and when he arrived in London. He was asked about how excited he was before leaving to join Tottenham Hotspur a couple of days ago. He said, "I couldn't sleep." He said on what his possibilities are in terms of playing in the Premier League this season. He said, "I think I'm a little smaller, but also more agile than the players I'm competing with at Tottenham. I'm confident in my instant speed. I will do my best to show my skills at Spurs." Son Heung-min was, of course, also asked his thoughts on Yang Min-huk arriving this week. He said, "He's a very bright player, so I'm excited he's coming here and I'll try to help him as much as I can. But we just have to avoid putting too much pressure on him." And that's true. I've been listening to all of my favourite Spurs podcasts this week, The Extra Inch, The View from the Lane, The Tottenham Way. And certainly Windy and Nathan were discussing Yang Min-huk on The Extra Inch, and they were saying they've caught a few of those games that he played in the K-League, and they were just massively shocked at how poor the level of the K-League is. So in reality, I would have to agree with them on that basis that Yang Min-huk coming straight into the Spurs side and ripping it up in the Premier League probably isn't likely. Let's not forget, even when Son Heung-min joined Spurs, and that was from Germany, from Leverkusen, where he'd been doing really well for a good few years, it took him a year to adapt to the Premier League and to Tottenham. And actually, he wanted to leave after the first season, Sonny. And Spurs were debating letting him leave, and a lot of fans thought he wasn't going to make it. So for a young kid like Yang Min-huk, who's never played at the top level, to come straight in and rip it up, probably unlikely. But then also, playing devil's advocate to that, I'm afraid to say Timo Werner has been so bad, like an inability to even trap the ball, that at this point you'd probably be willing to throw Yang Min-huk in for some minutes instead of Timo Werner. Okay, I'm sure you've also heard about this, but yesterday an official statement was released from the FA regarding Rodrigo Bentancur and Tottenham's appeal. It said this: an independent appeal board has dismissed an appeal by Rodrigo Bentancur in relation to his recent suspension. An independent regulatory commission imposed a 7-match suspension on the Spurs midfielder for an aggravated breach of FA Rule E3 in relation to a media interview. Obviously, we know all about that, what he said about Sonny and East Asian people in the summer. It goes on. This appeal was dismissed following a hearing, and the 7-match suspension remains as ordered by the regulatory commission. The appeal board's written reasons for its decision will be published in due course, and I'm pretty sure that 7 matches end after the Liverpool game in the week. So we will have Bentancur in the weekend. Bentancur will be back 4 games from next week onwards. Just some comments from some of the players after Tottenham's really important 5-0 win at Southampton. Lucas Bergvall said, "First Premier League start and a big win thanks to the travelling supporters. See you on Thursday." He was asked about how he feels playing in that 6 role. "I was impressed with him coming into the 6, getting the balls off the centre-back, spreading it wide first touch, second touch. He looked very comfortable there, and that's why, frankly, I am questioning whether Yves Bissouma comes straight back in for the Man United game. I'm sure he will. Let me know what you think in the comments. But I said it to Yori on my interview yesterday. I just think Bergvall is far less likely to do something completely mental like Bissouma did in the penalty area to give away that penalty against Chelsea. But also, Yori made the point, and it's a good one, that Bergvall is far more likely to get kind of muscled on off the ball. But I think the more minutes that Bergvall plays, the more he'll realise kind of body position and where he needs to be especially strong in that midfield to not be muscled off the ball. And what I really like about Bergvall so far, he's got a bit of bite about him. He gets his foot in, he wins the ball back really well. And like I said, the way he was coming for balls from Fraser Forster and from his 2 centre-backs against Southampton impressed me. Son Heung-min said about that performance, "A proper team performance and result. Proud of the boys. Time to keep the focus and push on. This is the level we expect of ourselves. Coys." Archie Gray said, I'm grateful for every minute I play. Wherever the manager wants me to play, I'm happy to play it. That was when he was asked about playing centre-back. And then in terms of his own form and what he thinks about himself, Archie said this: I'll always back all of us and back myself to step in and do the job. For us, I think the result is the most important thing. We're just focusing on playing our football, which is the best way to get the results we want. Big Radu Dragusin, who's really coming on as far as I'm concerned, getting rhythm in his legs, starting to properly understand what it's all about. I think with Dragusin, you're going to get at least one, maybe two bad passes a game as he tries to really learn how he can play those balls in between the lines the way that Romero does so excellently. But the key thing is he's a great box defender. Some recovery tackles he's putting in are brilliant. He's a workhorse, great in the air, obviously, as well. And I've been very impressed with him recently, and he needed this run of games. I think he really did. And he will put some pressure on Romero when Romero comes back. Of course, Romero will go straight back into the team, but he needs to up his concentration levels because there have been too many mistakes from him this season and too many injuries as well. But Big Radu said, great away win, great clean sheet. We go on. See you Thursday at home. That's right, Thursday, the huge one against Man United. Pape Matasau, I thought, had one of his best performances at the St Mary's. He said, big performance from the team away from home, back to winning ways. And then Alfie Dorrington, of course, the next academy graduate off the line, finally making his debut. We've been talking about him for a couple of years. I was impressed with how big he was. I was impressed with how he was brave, trying to play balls in between the lines. Obviously, Southampton had a goal disallowed from a pass that was intercepted from Dorrington, and he had his hands on his head, but it was disallowed, and therefore you can shake that one off, and he continued to play brave balls, both across his own box and into midfield. And Alfie Dorrington said this: proud moment for me to make my debut for Spurs. Top performance from the team. Thank you to the travelling fans. He was also asked in more depth about making his Spurs debut, and very grounded young man gave a really good answer. He said this: it's an honour, a true honour. I've watched so many of those players, and now I'm part of it. It's funny, when I was a young boy, I didn't even think of being here on a day like this. I just enjoyed playing football. Now I've come on and made my Premier League debut for the team I grew up watching. It's unbelievable, really. My whole family are Spurs. My brother's mates were here. They live in Dubai. They're close family friends, and they're over for Christmas. That worked out perfectly. A few friends were here as well. For them to be here when I made my debut, that was special. It's amazing to think I started in the academy with the under-13, straight from Sunday League, 5 years ago now. I've been around the squad, been on the bench a few times, but never actually came on. It's about being patient, and it just shows that you can do it. And then the moment comes. It felt like I was on the touchline for ages, excited, just waiting to get on. I was thinking, this is what I've worked for my whole life. I just want to thank all the coaches who've been involved in my journey here and elsewhere, and my parents for believing in me, taking me to all those games when I was younger. It's amazing to learn from the best every day. Even when I'm not training, I'm still looking at the games, looking at what the players do to try to continue developing my game. The players are so welcoming. I didn't feel as if I was a young player as such with that pressure. They just treated me as normal, and that really helped me settle in. Just before I went on, Sonny was behind me, shouting at me to be ready, telling me this is what I'd worked for. All the lads on the bench were so encouraging. I love that. Just shows he's a grounded boy. Very thankful to his parents, to his family. It doesn't sound to me like he feels like he's made it. It just sounds like he's saying, this is what I've waited my whole life for, what I've worked for. This is the start, and now we go on. He's a big guy, good shape, body shape for a centre half. Obviously still incredibly young, so he'll fill out even more. And like I said, the bravery on the ball is what impressed me. And in terms of sticking in and around the squad whilst Ange is in charge, I think that bodes really well, because we all know that Ange wants those centre-backs to be footballers as much as he wants them to be defenders. And I think Alfie Dorrington will have a good old battle with Luka Vuskovic when he comes in next year in terms of being, you know, the third and fourth choice centre-backs, maybe fourth and fifth choice centre-backs if Ben Davies sticks around for another year. Just some other quotes come from Ange Postecoglou in the last few days that I haven't talked about on videos with you guys. He was asked about criticism of his style. He said, I get it, and those questions usually come when things aren't going well and you understand why then people are going to question it. I can only be who I am and only do what I believe. I believe it to my core. I live and breathe it. I'll always stick to the path that I think is best for the club I'm with. I have to say, a lot of people talking about Ange not having a plan B and being so stubborn. I think Ange Postecoglou is tweaking. I can really see the tweaks that are happening. And if you think about those stats that are doing the rounds, that every time Spurs have won this season, they've won by kind of 3 or 4 goals, or 2, 3 or 4 goals. And every time we've lost, it's only been by 1 goal. So the margins in terms of us losing are very small, and our defensive record, third best in the league, and our attacking record, I think first or second highest scorers. It shows we shouldn't be in 10th place, and things just haven't quite aligned for us yet. But I think they could. We could go on a run. I don't know if it's going to be now. Obviously, we've got United next, and Liverpool at home will be very, very difficult indeed. It's very hard to see Mo Salah not scoring in that game, that's for sure. So the run may not start yet, but that result at Southampton was huge. And I do think Ange is tweaking. So if we can just stay in some relatively good form over the Christmas period, over the start of January, stay in the League Cup, and then go into those last couple of games of the Europa League. And then as February comes in, hopefully the squad gets fitter, and maybe we add a couple of additions to it in the window as well. Then maybe we could end this season well. Ange was asked about having to prove critics wrong. He said, "That's okay. I enjoy the fight. I enjoy the battle. I enjoy when the doubts are there and you have to stay strong and find a path forward. I'm still loving every minute of what I do and where I'm at. And we all feel a strong sense of responsibility to get this club where it wants to be." I love that. His rhetoric is so good in the press when it comes to that. He only made that one interesting decision to talk about Timo Werner out in public, and that, to be honest, we got a bit of a bounce back from that at the St Mary's, didn't we? So who knows? Maybe it was the right thing to do. Dan Kilpatrick also came out this week and said that Spurs are undertaking another review of their medical department following an injury pile-up, which is threatening to further derail their season. Interesting one, that, because Ange came out this season already, didn't he, and said that they'd made a good few changes in the medical department. So clearly that hasn't come off straight away. Richarlison has said, or has at least discussed in private, and it's been leaked, that he doesn't want to leave Spurs in January, in part because he's about to become a father. Fluminense in Brazil are interested in Richarlison. Their chairman has come out and spoken about that. They'd love to take him on loan, but Spurs have no intention of letting him go, and certainly not on loan. I think they'll be looking to get some of their, or a fair chunk of their money back from someone like Saudi Arabia, and no Brazilian club's going to be able to pay that. And finally, sure you saw this a good few days ago now, but Spurs considering activating their recall clause in Ashley Phillips' loan deal in January to help cover their centre-back injury crisis. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Once again, please do give this video a like. Please do press subscribe for daily Spurs content. I'm getting close to 12,000 subscribers, so would love to have you on board, especially as we reach the transfer window in just about 10, 12 days' time, where I'll be doing daily Premier League transfer videos as well. And you can listen to this on the podcast platform, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Just go over there, type in the Spurred On Podcast, and give me a listen on your run or when you're driving or just having a walk every day. Just one day now before that big League Cup quarter-final. Come on, you Spurs.